Can everybody hear me okay? Good, good. Good to see you all. There's Mike. Mike, if you're available, would you lead us in the mandala, please?
Sure, thanks. Here is a great earth, filled with smoke of incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, the four lands, wearing a jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha, and I offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatsayami.
Thank you. And now refuge. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create, from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous ever with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create, from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous ever with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, may I attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, compassion, knowledge, and strength, the Dharma, the enlightened side of truth, and the Sangha, the community of realized beings. From the virtuous merit I create from the practice of giving with the understanding of emptiness, moral discipline with the understanding of emptiness, patience with the understanding of emptiness, joyous effort with the understanding of emptiness, concentration and wisdom, I will attain the state of a Buddha for the benefit of all living beings. Okay. We seem to have reducing numbers of students for this class. I wonder if it's because I fell asleep last class. No, can't be that. Anyway, okay, so rejoicing first, then we have the how and the why question. Okay, so who's going to start first? Let's go with Svetlana.
Hello, dear Venerable Sumati. I'd like to rejoice that today many people, well, some people, maybe just two, gave me compliments about my outfit, that this color is good and etc. And like how I got this compliment, it's because I put some nice clothes which will be nice for other people, and but why I received those compliments because previously before I made compliments to other people and highlighted that they have a good look. So I dedicate this seeds in understanding how we can create friendly and supportive environment for everyone.
Very good. Well, do you have a picture of the outfit you were wearing?
Picture. Oh, this one. This like jacket. This sweater.
Oh, it is a good color on you. So good. Well, that's very good. And if we can remember the how and the why and dedicate all the time during the day, you'll be surprised at just how much will come and make your day. So, okay, Katya.
Hi, good morning. Well, I want to rejoice, or the why and the how is that I have the time to do my homeworks, and the how is that it was weekend, so we have more time, and the why is that I gave others more time to others, so that is the real reason that I give time to the others.
Right. Time is something I think most of us not ignore, take for granted. And I think it's very important to make sure that, well, for instance, what happened just recently with my wife. Oh, I was able to generate a list of the various holidays for the next year. So we're on schedule with doing the Tara things and everything. And there was a mistake, and another student found it, and I said to myself, well, I can take care of that later. And I said, no, take care of it right now, and dedicate it that the information you get when you need it is correct, because you corrected this, even though it was inconvenient. Well, I just did my rejoicing. Well, Katerina's in time for rejoicing. Yay! Okay, what do you have to rejoice in?
Hello everyone. I'm glad that I'm today here on the class. I'm glad that we met on Saturday with other people who teach ACI and DCI. I need help. Sorry with my English.
No problem.
Я рада, что у нас была встреча.
I
что у нас
was
есть возможность
glad that
встретиться
we had a
вживую,
met, that we had an opportunity to meet in person and online with those who practice and those who study. And thank you very much that you teach us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure. Okay, who's else? Oh, Daria. What do you have to rejoice in?
Good morning, Venerable Sumati. I rejoice. I continue to watch my mental affliction because in my job we change room. And I stopped complaining because I always complain, okay, you give me this not good room, it's bad, or I want another room and I want you disturb me and blah, blah, blah. But I stopped, okay, I told myself, okay, stop and don't upset. It was going to change always. How Geshe Michael said, today you have good, yes. Next you have bad, and good, bad, good, bad. It's you can stop complain and study emptiness and seeds. Remember.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's the suffering of change. We have good days and we have bad days.
Yeah.
But it's when if you ignore the 2 days, the two things that are happening, when you have something good happening, rejoice in it, help someone else in a similar vein, and dedicate it. And when something bad happens, say to yourself, I've just burned off that karma. I burned off the karma for having a not sufficient room. Now, I'm not going to get mad at anybody. I'm just going to burn off that piece of karma, and eventually I will have burned all of it off. The trouble is the word eventually. And if we stop and think about it, most of us want good karma to ripen right away. But if that's true, then do we want bad karma to happen right away? No, most people don't. So you need to keep the how and the why in front of you at all times. I'm thinking of what else happened yesterday? No, that's the one I wanted to share. So, okay. Okay. So now we're on class 4, and we're going to go over each of the root downfalls.
Lama Sumati, you
Yes.
have to rejoice on the tamales you did just.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. That was an oversight. When we were in, Katya, what was the celebration, the day of celebration?
It's called El Día de la Candelaria.
Okay. What does that translate to?
I don't know.
I'm guessing candles.
Yes,
Anyway,
it's the light, a candle.
okay, so there's a tradition where you have this cake of bread that's made into a ring, and it has these little baby statues in it. And if you take a piece of the bread, you don't know if there's baby statues in it. And then you find out it is, and if it is, you have to keep. And then on February 2nd, you've got to provide tamales for people. And since we weren't in Mexico, my lovely wife and I decided we had 4 babies. We found 4 of the 6 babies. So Carlos is a dear friend of ours and student of ours, and we gave him tamales, and they were very pleased that we are fulfilling this part of the celebration. They beamed. They were really happy. And then we have some friends from Canada that have apparently never ever had a tamale. And so Sarani took over a bunch to them. And I don't think she told them how to open them. But Janice figured out that you weren't supposed to eat the husk, and they found them to be quite delicious. So Sarani got them from a local market, so they're very authentic. It wasn't like something out of the grocery store. This is a Mexican market that's near us, and we're starting to try and go there more often to get things. So that was a lot of fun. It was a celebration of eating the bread and finding the baby statues was really, that was a lot of fun. They're little tiny statues about this big, and they're baby Jesus. So thank you, Katya, for reminding me. That was a lot of fun. It was a sweet bread. It was kind of like, as I recall, on the top, it had candied fruit, I think. It wasn't like a fruit cake, which I really like. I like fruit cake. I'm one of the few people on the planet that like getting fruit cake at Christmas. Sarani's dad was an MD, and he used to get all kinds of stuff from doctors' offices, and he would get some of the most fantastic fruit cakes. Oh man, that brings back a lot of good memories. Actually, Sarani's mom and I were the only 2 people that like fruitcake. But anyway, okay. So now we're going to go into the vowed activities of a bodhisattva. Now, when he talked about the vowed activities, there are the vows, the root vows, and the secondary vows. But another aspect of the activity are the 6 perfections. We need to remember the six perfections are kind of our roadmap for being a bodhisattva. So here we go. The root downfalls. There are 18 root downfalls, the most serious bodhisattva vows. A downfall means if you break the vow, you will fall down to the hells. If you completely commit a root downfall, it destroys the vows in your mental continuum. Now, you say to yourself, oh my, this is terrible. If I break a vow, what am I going to do? It's pretty difficult to do this. It takes a really ugly, dark state of mind. But as we're going to discuss later, you have to have 4 attitudes called the 4 chains in your heart to break 16 of these. If you do 1, 2, or 3 of these chains, the vow is damaged but not broken. Once you break one of your root vows, you cannot attain the first Bodhisattva Bhumi in this lifetime. And seeing emptiness under the influence of bodhicitta is the first Bodhisattva Bhumi. This is the case even if you take your vows again. So for a monk, the 4 most serious vows to break are killing a human, stealing anything of virtue, sexual intercourse, and lying about spiritual attainments. Lying about any of these destroys the full monk vows. Can anybody remember why they're called defeats? They're called defeats because your mental afflictions have won. They have defeated your efforts to do only good deeds. So now to the vows. Yes, Katrina?
Я не помню, это здесь или нет, про 4 цепи.
I don't remember whether it's here or no about 4 chains. 4 chains.
Right, we're going to talk about it in a little bit. Okay. So, praising yourself and belittling others. It says criticizing here, but I like the term belittling others. This is primarily directed to those who are teaching or sharing the Dharma, where they praise their own teaching and put down others in order to gain sponsors or enhance their reputation. The motivation must be that you're after material gain or the respect and admiration of others. The motivation must be a desire for your gain. If you correct somebody, you must do it with great love, joy, and wish to benefit them. There are times when you hear another's teaching which is incorrect and potentially dangerous to others' minds. In this case, you are required to correct the teacher and the teaching by requesting to debate them or requesting spiritual documentation for their teaching. This would not be breaking a vow. So in my case, I'm not much of a debater. What I would do, and unless it was really, if it was a subtle point, I'd talk to the teacher afterwards. But if it's a major problem, a major mistake, I would simply raise my hand, wait to be called upon, and ask politely for a scriptural reference. So if you're at a teaching, for instance, if I'm teaching something and you don't agree with me, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. But you need to raise your hand if we're doing questions at the time or during class. You need to respectfully ask me to clarify. And if I haven't clarified it enough, what I'll probably say is, please talk to me after class. It depends on the question, because if I've made a major mistake, I don't want to put it off till after class and have people go home without having it corrected. The point I try and make when I have this problem, which it's happened rarely to me, is politely ask for clarification. I mean, you could say, "Oh, that's completely wrong. You don't know what you're talking about," or you could say, "Could you please clarify that? I think I misunderstood it." So I really think that's part of this vow is if you're going to criticize, do it the way you'd want to have someone do it. What am I trying to say? Do it the way you would like someone to do it for you. So if I'm gonna question someone, in a teaching, I can either blurt out that's wrong, or I can ask to talk to them after class. That's how I prefer to have a student ask me. Then I can give the full attention to the answer. For you to commit a root downfall, the person you are speaking to must grasp what you are saying. So this means someone has to be offended by your criticism. This applies to Mahayana persons putting down other Mahayana students and not to ordinary people. The point is it may result in a schism, which is very bad. So that's a good point. You don't want to cause this. Now we talked about schisms in the Sangha, and that technically is not possible because it happens 12 years after Lord Buddha leaves the planet. Well, that's a long time ago. So I prefer, as I said back then, I prefer to look at a schism, to make sure you don't do anything to cause divisiveness in the schism, in the Sangha. Now, either praising myself or putting down another is breaking the vows. Both don't have to be present. Those are the two parts of this vow. It must be verbal speech, not just a thought. What you say should be a lie in order to break this one. The bottom line is do not go around criticizing others and praising yourself. Opinions are one thing, criticizing is another. There's nothing wrong as a Buddhist having your own opinion about something. It's when you try and force other people to agree with you. I learned a long time ago at board meetings on the various boards I've been on in my career. Just state your opinion, and if the people agree with it, great. And if they don't, you've said what you needed to say. It's not so much changing other people's minds as it is giving them information for them to make it a more appropriate decision. Okay, number 2. Not giving someone Dharma teachings or material assistance. You have the ability to teach, but do not want to share your knowledge for someone else's gain. The other person should have one of these two qualities. They must have a serious problem, or you are their only option. So if someone you know has kidney disease, but you can't afford a dialysis or treatment, but cannot afford a dialysis or treatment, you are their last resort, and you have the money. You must be able to help. You must have what they need. Limitations on giving do not include giving things which might cause harm. So refusing to give money at the stop sign to a homeless person because you think they will get drunk, is it compassion for them or stinginess on your part? You must be overwhelmed by the feelings of stinginess because you don't want to part with what you have. They must specifically ask you for something. If you see a need and they don't ask, you don't break the vow. The main motivation for breaking this vow would be attachment or stinginess. In reality, there are two parts to this vow, not giving the Dharma and not giving material things. You don't give what is really needed because you don't want to part with it. You let others suffer because of your attachment and greed. So, when I went out of my way to compile all of the answers and the answer keys for the 18 courses and all of the reading and all of the student notes, it was a great study aid for me as a teacher. Now, if I didn't want other teachers to have this resource so I could look and seem better, a better teacher, that would have been breaking this vow. Even though nobody else knew about it, if in my mind I thought, oh goody, I have something I can use to teach and nobody else has it, so I'm going to be a better teacher. That's breaking this vow. So what do? I give it to as many people as I can because it's a great study tool. It's like the book of lists. I put the book of lists together to help other people study, make it more interesting or more portable. But if I had done that just for myself or my few close friends, that would have been breaking this vow. Even though nobody else would have known about it. It would have been withholding the Dharma. And that's a very bad thing. Okay, number 3. Striking another person or staying angry when they try to explain and apologize. This is an interesting one because the striking, I've never hit anybody in my life. I've been in one fight and we wrestled. We didn't strike at didn't hit each other. Staying angry when they try to explain and apologize. It's interesting. The detail says it must be a person and not an animal. You'd be mad at your dog. I'm not quite sure that would qualify. Spontaneous altercations and fights are not included. To break this, they must sincerely explain or apologize, and you hang on to your anger otherwise. You break your vow and you refuse the apology and stay angry. That's an interesting one. So you think about it. When you get an apology from someone, well, let's go over what an apology really is. How many times have you had someone apologize and say, I apologize, but? Well, what kind of apology is that? I apologize if I got you upset, but I didn't. But you really shouldn't have gotten upset. It's basically what that's saying. Or I apologize. Let's see, what's the other one? I apologize and you're apologizing and you're trying to convince them the apology is sincere. You simply say, I apologize. I apologize if you're hurt. You're basically saying it's not your problem, it's their problem. So apologize, I apologize for hurting your feelings. I'm sorry, it won't happen again. That's an apology. The example of when I was running down the hill, getting mad at a friend who was doing some work in an area he shouldn't have been working. I ran down the hill and I was livid. The last time, that was back in probably 2007. That was the last time I've gotten really, really mad. I don't think you would have recognized me. I was so angry. I didn't recognize myself. And about half an hour later, we were talking like good friends. So it didn't last, but that's very vivid in my mind when that happened. His excuse was I let other people do it. And he had a certain degree of reality to what he was saying. But I just never forget the adrenaline rush. I was really mad. Okay, rejecting the Mahayana teachings. That's root vow number 4. You reject either of the two great divisions of the Mahayana teachings, the one on emptiness or the one on the Bodhisattva path and way of life. The way you reject it is to say it's invalid, to say the Buddha never taught it. Or part of this would be rejecting, teaching false Dharma by making up your own interpretation and teaching it as the Dharma. You must say this is my interpretation or experience or idea. To break this vow, you must know that you made it up, like the idea, teach it to others as true Mahayana Buddhism, and the others accept it. You must keep and teach the Dharma purely and strictly without any corruption or change from the original in the slightest. So, I try very hard when I'm teaching. If I come up with, for instance, what was it? Perfection of giving. I like to, there's perfection of giving. Well, what are the three or four parts of the perfection of giving? Who can give me those? Go ahead, Svetlana.
Material things,
Yeah,
protection, like shelter,
yeah.
and love and dharma.
Yeah, I think it's taught as three: perfection of material things, protection of personal protection, and giving the Dharma. And I like to include, no, I guess it is four, but I include compassion. So there's love, and I include compassion. So whenever I do this, I say, well, I add compassion. That's not something in the sutras, but I add it instead of just saying it and having someone go, oh, well, Sumati said there were compassions in there, and you're not saying, but he implied that was part of the Dharma. So I make it very clear when I'm adding my own uh, interpretation, and then I don't break this vow. Number 5, stealing the belongings of the 3 jewels. Images of the Lord Buddha, the books, the temple. Stealing from any of the 3 jewels breaks a vow. So in fact, there are 3 parts to this vow. The motivation must be a bad thought. If you steal with the motivation to help others, it doesn't break the vow, but you have to be very careful here. And I think that's where we fall into this idea of skillful means. I think an immature Dharma student will see skillful means as a way to do something that they shouldn't do, but think it's okay to do because they're doing it with the right motivation. If you steal with the motivation to help others, it doesn't break the vow. I say that because it's to be taught, but I don't agree. If you steal with the motivation to help others, like Robin Hood, you're basically setting to me in the future to have things stolen from you, to have people disrespect what you have. So this one, I think, is open to interpretation in a way that stealing the belongings of the 3 jewels, period. You don't do it. Oh, here's a subtle example. We have a library at Diamond Mountain, and it's an honor system library. You take a book and you return it as soon as you can. I think it's easy for someone to take a book and take it home and not return it. And that's stealing. Something that subtle is still stealing. Now, if you find someone from Diamond Mountain, you say, I'm borrowing this book. Is it all right if I bring it back next 6 months from now with the next teaching? And they say yes, then fine. But if you take it and don't ask, then in my opinion, you're stealing that which has not been given. Now, it may have changed since I've been there last and used the library. And maybe there's a sign up there that says, feel free to borrow whatever you want for as long as you want. Great. But it's a very small thing. But a lot of times I think we found that the small, subtle things are the ones that catch up with you and are easy to skillful means convince yourself of otherwise. Here's another, this is a good example too. When we were in 3-year retreat, we had, our house was occupied by Rob Rusinger and his wife. And we knew this and we were pleased, but we had this unique, what do they call, cutlery, knives and forks and stuff at the dinner table. We had this really nice modern set. And during 3-year retreat, we started to find the utensils showing up in various parts of the retreat center, where in our retreat valley. And what we thought people were doing was taking that which was not given. They were carelessly taking these. And this is really trivial in many ways, but it disturbed both of our pieces of mind. And so we collected the utensils when we saw them. And at the end of the 3-year retreat, we went back to the house, and sure enough, a lot of the stuff was missing. And this is my first exposure to the internet when I got back from 3-year retreat. A friend of mine said, you're missing 3 spoons from this set. And to me, it was important. It sounds trivial now, but back then it was important. So I went online, and there was an internet site for cutlery, for, well, flatware, was utensils, knives and forks. And I found, believe it or not, I found out of hundreds of, maybe thousands of various utensils, I found it and ordered 3 spoons for about $5 a piece and got them. It was really amazing. But the point of the story was the persons who were taking those utensils and not putting them back were, in my opinion, stealing that which was not given. Now, it's trivial. I will admit that it's very trivial. But if you don't catch yourself doing those kind of things, they will grow and become problems down the road. So it's like take a chair from the temple and take it outside during the fire puja and then not putting it back because someone else will. Well, I would say that's wrong. That's close to breaking this vow. Now, it depends on your motivation, and we'll talk about the 4 chains. Taking cushions from the temple and not putting them back because somebody else will. Tiny thing. But reflect back in your life on how tiny these tiny things are and know how karma grows. And you'll see that even that, taking that cushion and not returning it was the karmic seed. That's a powerful karmic object. It's not the cushion. It's the temple and what the temple means to you. The next one is giving up the Dharma, from that of the hearers to the self-made Buddhas or Mahayana teaching. You give it up by saying, this isn't the teaching of the Buddhas. You have to say that. The listeners primarily study the four Arya truths. The self-made Buddhists primarily study the 12 links of dependent origination, and the Mahayana teachings are all the teachings of Lord Buddha. So you give it up by saying the 12 links of dependent origination isn't really the teaching of the Buddha. You must deny the validity of the listener's path, not just an aspect of it. You must say the listeners are not following the Buddha's teachings overall, or the self-made Buddhists, or the Mahayana, that is not a path taught by the Buddha. Now, why anyone would say this, that's taken the Bodhisattva vows, is beyond me. I mean, if you've taken the vows, you obviously believe in what Lord Buddha taught. So this may be, part of this may be you're saying, well, if you're a listener, you're not really following the highest teaching. So you're a lesser Buddhist than I am. Now, why someone would say that again, I have no idea. So I don't think this one's that easy to break. Number 7, taking the golden robes away. This is taking the robes away from the ordained. And you take the robes by telling them to take them off. You take them off yourself, or making them give back their vows and become a lay person. You must have the desire to help, to hurt them, or physically hurting them by beating them. All this has to be done with the motivation to hurt them. So who falls into this category? In the invasion of Tibet by the Chinese, when they forced all those monks and nuns to disrobe. That's a major karma that, I don't know, most of them probably didn't even realize it. But for one of us to take the golden robes away, I think is pretty remote. Number 8, doing any of the immediate 5. The immediate 5 refer to the 5 heinous crimes. Anybody give me the 5 heinous crimes? Okay, killing your mother or father, or an arhat, causing a schism among the Buddha's direct disciples, or trying to harm a Buddha. Killing your mother or father would be something that, in theory, one of us could do. We don't know who arhats are. So, again, if we killed anybody, we might kill an arhat. We can't cause a schism in the Buddha's direct disciples, but we can cause a schism in our Sangha. So we want to be sure not to do that. And then the last one's trying to harm a Buddha. Since we don't know who a Buddha is, we shouldn't try and harm anybody. The last one is one of the two that is the most powerful and worst to break. Either denying the law of karma by believing you can do anything and nothing will come of it, or denying past and future lives by saying they don't exist. To break this vow, you must believe it from the bottom of your heart. It's better to shelve it or cook an idea that you do not understand rather than outright reject it. I have to take a brief break here, so I will be back in just a minute. Those are the first 9 of the root downfalls. Have any questions? Go ahead, Svetlana.
Thank you so much, dear Venerable Sumati. Can I ask the question about the second root downfall, not giving material assistance when there is a need and not giving dharma?
Mhm.
When, for example, people are asking for help on a street or begging you for some needs, so it's about material assistance, the first part of the question. Is it good just to read mantra as it feels the highest gift that you can offer them? Give some mantra and do some visualization? Or do we mm, uh, mm, break this vow in some sense if we are not giving material assistance to people who are approaching us and asking us for money for the God's sake and etc. And is it enough just to read a mantra and think inside ourselves that it's like the best that we can give them?
Well, that's a good question, Svetlana. I hadn't really thought about it that way. But my wife, when we lived we had a house with 3.5 acres up in the mountains near Tucson. It was wonderful. And she had a fantastic organic garden. And she thrived. She'd come home from work and immediately change clothes and go into her garden. It was really, and I got to cook with fresh vegetables almost every night. It was outstanding. And so what she would do is she would take some of the vegetables with her when she drove into work. And then if there was someone a homeless person at a stop sign, she would hand them some fresh tomatoes or peppers or lettuce or whatever, zucchini, whatever her crop was at the time. And we like to do that because that was something they couldn't misuse, or so we thought. Now, see, that was part of a problem with us giving that. We were trying to give them something they wouldn't leverage into drugs. And we felt that if we gave them cash, they'd just go buy drugs, which is a totally inappropriate thing for me to think on the one hand. And on the other hand, you don't want to give them something that will allow them to harm themselves. So I think mantras, I think if you were to think of that person as a Buddha trying to teach you a lesson by asking for assistance, that you could, if you saw them in that manner, you could offer mantras. And I think that would be a wonderful giving of assistance. But the most important thing is your motivation. The alternative is to have, so you give them $1. Well, what's $1 going to help? Or my wife often carried canned goods in the car because there was so little time at a stop sign, a stoplight, to react to the need. You roll your window down, you hand them, you have cans of soup or something on the front seat next to you, and you hand them that quickly. It's a tough situation. We used to have a lot of that in Tucson, and I don't remember. We still have some of it, but some of it's so dangerous because if you stop, roll down your window and hand it to them, and then the light changes, you have people behind you that are going to get angry. That's a tough situation. I don't know if that helps any, but it's your motivation. It's like if you give cash, you have to give cash and think, well, I hope, please go and buy a sandwich or something instead of saying, I hope they don't spend this on alcohol or on drugs. I had an interesting situation. I went into a convenience store. I don't know, do they have stores like 7-Elevens and stuff like that in Russia where you can go in and buy, junk? Well, junk food anyway. I walked into a store once, and outside was a guy who was clearly needed help. So I went in and I bought him a sandwich. And I handed him the sandwich and wished him well. And he looked at it like, I don't want no damn sandwich. I want money. And that made me realize that I had to be, my motivation was he looked hungry and I wanted to help him with that. So should I have asked him what he needed? Well, I don't think that would have been appropriate. So just, you have to sincerely feel a wish to help them. And I think mantras, that's an interesting gift. Because the mantras are not helping them so much as helping you not see them anymore. Seeing your world ripen into a more pleasant place. So let's see. It's your projection. You're seeing this individual needing assistance. And your assistance is to recite mantras that could get you enlightened and thus help him or her get enlightened. So that'd be one way to think about it. Any other questions?
And can I ask
Sure.
about like not sharing Dharma? If someone is asking, for example, to record and share some meditations, but I don't feel inner confidence and readiness to do it, how to be in this situation not to break this vow? Because I want to make it perfect, but I'm delaying this moment to share what people asked. So does it correspond?
No, if someone asked you to teach, let's say someone asked you to teach the source of all my good, and you don't feel confident in doing it, one, let me know and I'll send you my teaching notes. That's being silly. Then just say, I'm not confident that I can teach this properly. So no, I prefer not to do it until I can. That's okay because you're not refusing. You're well, what can I say? You're not refusing it. I'm not going to teach you the source of all my good. That'd be wrong. But to say you don't feel comfortable teaching it is being honest with them. If you get very many requests to do a teaching and you find yourself you don't feel confident, then look into doing the teaching so that you can feel confident. So refusing to give the Dharma would be, first instance, someone coming up to me and saying, would you please teach the source of all my good in Outer Mongolia? And I would say, well, I'd like to look into it. Instead of saying, no, I don't teach in Outer Mongolia. That's kind of a silly example, but I have yet to be asked to teach and refused. Does that happen to me? No, I haven't. That hasn't happened to me. It's more refusing because you don't think they deserve it or you don't want to share it. I like to teach the source of all my good, the entire program, but my wife's going to be coming with me to Armenia and Romania. And so I've asked her what she would like to teach, of the part of that she'd like to teach. And she wants to do equalizing self and others and the 7-step cause and effect. So I didn't say, when I asked her, I said, what part of the teaching of the source of all my good would you like to teach? I didn't say, here's the part I want you to teach. And she selected those parts. So I don't know if that example makes sense, but it makes sense to me because I could have said, lead the opening prayers and the closing prayers. I'm going to teach the rest. And that, of course, would have been arrogant on my part, and basically not allowing her to teach, which would be wrong. So it's so much of this is motivation, and that's where this idea of skillful means comes in. You have to be so very careful when you talk about skillful means. I could give a whole class on skillful means. Maybe I'll do that someday. Okay. Any other questions? Katrina, do you have a question? No?
То есть, если кто-то у меня, допустим, просит
If
материальную
somebody
помощь,
ask me about material assistance,
я не уверена, что этот
but
человек
I'm not
потратит
sure that this person will spend it
достаточно
for a
понятно.
proper source, it is understandable. But if I think that this is a good source, but for example, at this moment, I don't
Мало ресурсов,
have enough resources.
будет ли нарушением, если я, допустим, думаю, я там, не знаю,
But
хочу
if I think, for example, I
отдел
want
азиатской классики отдать,
donate by library, Asian classics library, but not to give to this person. Not that I'm the only person and he is really desperate in need, but he asks money for something.
ну, наверное, это тоже в каких-то концентрических кругах тоже
I think in some concentric circles it also impacts.
правильно ли это?
Do I understand it
Или
right?
я лучше
To evaluate it
или это всё-таки
by what will be better way to
Иногда у
give
меня
money.
такие сомнения.
Sometimes I'm hesitating in
Yeah,
such situations.
that's a difficult question, Katrina. Thank you for asking it. It's something that it's a constant battle because I would like to give money to everybody, but then I would not have money to take care of my lovely wife. So I have to be careful. What's an example? Well, one example, at Christmas, we give a number of charities, quite a few, maybe 20 charities, donate money. And we ask them to not put us on a mailing list, because if they do, we will not give to them anymore, because we feel they're wasting the money on this idea of a mailing list. And it's not a sincere request. It's just a computer spitting out a name saying, please donate to us. And there have been a number of charities that have ignored this request, and we usually cut them off, because it's the condition for our giving it to them is they spend it on services for their community, not on writing us yet again for more. There's a foundation called the Kiva Foundation, Kiva, and they set up microloans throughout the world. The client will write and say, I've got a used clothes shop in Guatemala and I need $500 to restock. And you look at that online and go, well, I think that person could use some money, so we'll donate $50 toward their request. And it's a loan, so they have to pay it back. So that's one way we can spread our wealth more easily. It has to be something you can give without regret. And that's very important. So if someone asked you for money and you have enough for the week's food or something like that. And then you're giving the money is may cause you regret. The worst thing is to give something with regret. That's not giving assistance. I don't know what the right term for that would be, but giving material assistance is it's difficult, and if we look at the giving, it's the least powerful giving. More powerful, the most powerful giving is giving the Dharma. So Svetlana's question in that regard is very astute, because is it better to give mantras and wishing them enlightenment in this lifetime? Is that's not something you can eat, or you can sell, or you can use to pay for something. But if it's setting the seed in your mind to project them having access to the Dharma, then that's the most powerful assistance you could give. So it's easy to overthink this too. I think if you feel compelled, well, that's not right. Well, it's the only word I can think of. If you feel compelled to give material assistance to the people at the stop sign or stoplight, then have readily available in your car $5 or whatever the amount is you want to donate. So you don't have to open your purse at the intersection and fumble for money. Have it out there. But if you give to the point where you're starting to not being able to take care of yourself, then you need to rethink it. Because it'd be easy to say, well, one thing you could do is say, I'm going to have $100 a month that I can easily handle $100 a month on my budget to donate. So then you get $100 in cash, maybe $25 bills or the equivalent, and then you know you've given what you can your budget can allow. And if you give all that away in the first day of the month, well, good, you've given it away. But that's one way to keep it in perspective, and not get yourself financially in trouble because you've given more than you can afford. Because then if it's more than you can afford, you're thinking, well, I shouldn't have done that. And that's the regret, and you don't want to have the regret. Giving Dharma or material possessions that's a difficult one. But you shouldn't have the motivation that if I give them this, they're going to spend it on drugs or on alcohol. Well, I don't know if I've shared this example with you. As you know, I like to stop people and help people with flat tires or problems with their cars. And one day I was coming home on this back stretch of road here in Tucson to the house we had in the mountains. And there was a young lady crying in a car on the side of the road. I stopped, rolled my window down just a bit. My doors were locked. I always travel in a car with my doors locked. Always. And I said, can I help you? She said, oh, my boyfriend and I had a fight. He went down this road. Would you go get him and tell him I forgive him? And I thought to myself, is this woman nuts? I'm not getting out of my car to walk down a dark road in the middle of nowhere to help her boyfriend who walked away mad. Because it was clear to me it was a setup to rob me. So I didn't drive off. I said, would you like me to call the police to help you? And she said, no, I don't need that. I said, well, that's all I can do, and drove off. Now, is that me breaking this vow because I didn't give her material assistance? No, that's me not getting myself killed. Because what had happened recently during that time frame is somebody had done that very thing on a highway down to Nogales, Nogales, Mexico, and had been killed because they wanted to rob him. So what would have been wrong would have been for me to say, forget you, I'm out of here. What was right was to say, I can offer her assistance in another form. And if she refused it, you've done what this vow has requested, or what this vow means. So I like the idea of budgeting a certain amount of money per month, and then if you spend the full $100 in the first week, great, you've helped people, but not to a point where you're endangering your livelihood. Because don't forget, you and your loved ones have to have enough to continue studying the Dharma and helping other people. It's a dilemma, a conundrum. Do you understand what I mean by conundrum?
Can you please spell this word?
Conundrum? Oh, man. Now you're asking a lot. Conundrum. C-O-N, C-O-N-U, C-O-N-U-N. I'll tell you what, I'm going to cheat and go to the,
Yes, I found this world. Thank you.
sorry. Just because I speak English doesn't mean I know what I'm, how to spell. Yeah, that's right. I tell people when they say, oh, you write books, I say, well, I write, but I couldn't tell you the grammar for the life of me, which is really embarrassing, but it's true. Okay. Any other questions? We'll go through the 9 other root vows next week, later on Thursday, and we'll proceed from there. So let's dedicate this. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. May the source of benefit and goodness, the Dharma, spread and expand. May the beings upholding the Dharma have excellent health. May the source of happiness and well-being for all embodied beings, the Dharma taught by the Buddhas, always increase. May all sentient beings know happiness and the causes of happiness, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings never be separated from the highest bliss, which is devoid of suffering, and may I help them achieve this. May all sentient beings come to rest in the great impartiality, which is free from attachment and aversion, and may I help them achieve this. Thank you for the opportunity to teach. It's always a pleasure to see you all, and share the Dharma with you. And we'll see you Thursday, and do your homeworks. Now, do I have a homework assignment for you? No, I think I'll leave it, the homework that you have to do. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you for mentioning the tamales, Katya. That was so much fun. We had a lot of laughter and good fun. That retreat was just, memorable. I think the one in Romania and Armenia is going to be as much fun. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.